Alright, just before I start the proper review, I do feel I need to address the fact that Darksiders 2 is a game that very nearly ruined because of bugs for me. I think during my playthrough I discovered that it's only the PC version of the game that has these problems, and I have come to the conclusion that the issues are with the PC port. This is something I find very disappointing because it feels to me like a lot of people have put a lot of effort into making a pretty and engaging world and game, but then right at the final hurdle, the team who ported the game to the PC just didn't give a hoot and failed hard. Aside from these bugs, I did enjoy most of Darksiders 2. The world created is really enthralling and good looking, and the sound design complements this really well to fully immerse the player in the world. Unfortunately, I feel that the story struggles to keep up with this level of quality, as the story generally feels very generic and barely engaging at all. I love the tie-ins with the first game, and some of the finer points of the story had some great ideas, but overall I found the story fairly poorly told, with obvious but confusing exposition and mechanics that didn't integrate with the story at all. For example, the inclusion of a gun really doesn't wash with me, and Death randomly finding personal upgrades inside dungeons is never explained and doesn't make sense. At least in games like Zelda, it makes a certain amount of sense that a random item is left in a dungeon or temple. Although I like the idea of having each game in a series work under slightly different genres, with Darksiders 1 being essentially a Zelda clone, action-adventure, Darksiders 2 being more an RPG, and I understand Darksiders 3 to be very much a Souls-like, I feel this has the potential to alienate fans of the previous games. I myself don't like to play Souls games, and I'm actually considering not purchasing Darksiders 3 because of its similarity, and on that score I also don't really appreciate the RPG elements of 2. In almost every RPG there comes a time where grinding or side quests become necessary, and no game should ever boil down to grinding. On that topic, I found the side quests in Darksiders 2 wholly uninteresting and felt no real compunction to actually do any of them. This is a shame because it also made me less interested in exploring the beautiful world that has been created, and I feel it is a massive missed opportunity. By far the worst part of this game though is the voice acting and script writing. The dialogue in this game is laughable at points and totally destroys the wonderful atmosphere created by the world and other sound design. I feel that overall the quality of voice acting has been getting better over the years, but this game takes a few major steps back on that score. When the story is trying to tell a serious plot point and I'm just sitting there laughing at the awful delivery, there is definitely something majorly wrong. The thing that frustrates me most about this is that it was far worse than it was in the first game, for which voice acting and script writing was rarely a problem. The mechanics of the game were good, with some interesting and clever power-ups, some of which did integrate with the world quite well, though none of them were very well explained. The combat was fun, and definitely an upgrade from the previous game. The puzzles were clever and only occasionally obtuse, and I like the fact that the dungeon items are used throughout the game and no item just gets shelved once the dungeon is over, which is something that often happens in Zelda. Overall, I think I would still recommend this game to anyone who loves fantasy and would appreciate the great atmosphere the game creates. But honestly, this is a game with quite a large number of pretty major flaws, notwithstanding the bugs. If as much love had been given to the story, script and voice acting as been put into the world, level and sound design, then I think I would have really fallen in love with this game. As it is though, I feel disappointed that a game with such an amazing atmosphere and premise, with so much potential, just throws it away with missed opportunities in the generic story writing, the bad voice acting and boring side missions. If anyone knows of a game with an atmosphere similar to this, but with a better told story, interesting side missions and voiceovers that don't sound like amateur dramatics, let me know so I can play it.